So here's the weave. It's 16 inches long. The type, it's called Bakari synthetic weave, and it comes with a closure top, but it also comes with bangs. So what you're going to do is cut ties that they put on the weave to hold it all together. See what we're working with. Okay. So here's the end. Looks like this. Then we're going to use some super glue, Gorilla Glue. This one cost me at Lowe's for $7. That's with tax included. And it comes with this freebie small tube of glue. So it's not a bad price. Okay, as you can see, there's a line right here at the bottom of the doll's head, and it actually goes around the entire head, and it's supposed to give you the frame of where the wig is supposed to go around the head of the doll. But I will be using a weave, as you can see here, and I'm going to put some glue right below this line, just slightly below, and that is where I will begin the weave, and I will keep going around and around until I get to the very top. So I'm going to do a few lines, and then I will show you how the weave is developing on the doll's head. So I got at the end of where I started, and I slightly overlapped this part so that underneath it's going to look like a straight line. And now I'm going to go just slightly above this first track and glue all the way around, and I will continue to do that until I get to the top. From doing this, just this one row, I have to say that, well, the glue has this certain smell that might become a little bit irritant to some people's eyes. It might actually cause you to tear up. So my advice would be use some goggles. Maybe that would help the fumes not penetrate your eyes, and that way you can still continue your work. And that way, since you're working with super glue, you won't mess up as much. So you have to be careful with the smell. It will cause some irritation to your eyes. So that's something to consider. Another thing, I tried using this bottle, and well, I guess you have to squeeze it very lightly, because if you squeeze it a little too hard, the glue will come out a little too much. It'll make a thick line that is wider than the actual track of the hair. And I've been using this little glue, and this one has a much smaller tip, so I recommend you buy this type with a very small nozzle as compared to this one. It has a thicker nozzle. Let me uncap it. Look, can you see the difference? And well, the glue will come out thicker if you're not very careful. And if you're impatient, well, you'll make a mess. And so I don't recommend you get this one. I do recommend the glue itself. It's very strong. But maybe getting the smaller ones. It'll be a little bit easier to work with. You won't use as much excess glue. You won't mess up as easily. And the fumes won't be as strong. So that's another thing to consider. Okay. So I will continue gluing on the hair. Okay, as I mentioned before, I was framing around the head, and it has very sharp edges, but as you keep going around the head, twirling the track around, eventually the edges will not become as sharp, and they'll make a circular shape. So as you're near finishing or halfway, like I'm almost halfway through the track, it's making a circle. So eventually you'll have a small spot of a circle, and that's where I'm going to put the weave closure. As you can see, I finished the first weave. Like I said in the beginning, you need 2 packs of weave. So this is one, and now I'm going to connect the other. I'm going to start gluing it slightly on top of where the last end of the weave ended, and then keep spiraling around. So I'll show you how to do that. I ran out of the small tube of glue, so I'm using the bigger one. Like I said, squeeze very lightly, because if you don't, then a bunch of it will come out, as you can see. But that's okay. You can wipe it off if you want, or leave it as is. So you put that on top, as like so. Make sure that part has glue, because so it doesn't fray. So be aware that when you're doing this, you will get glue in your hands. And just let it dry for a few seconds and keep going around. I recommend you go about 1/2 inch each time. So you put about 1/2 inch of glue, you let it dry over, you hold it in place, you wait about 15-20 seconds, and then you go again, you add another bit of glue, and you let it dry for another 15-20 seconds. So it's going to take a little bit of time to finish. There. Okay, so I am near the tip of her head, the center of it, and an issue that I had when I started gluing the weave is that there is this circle all the way around her head, and it has a ridge, and so sometimes gluing on the edge of the ridge makes this part and this part sort of lift, so you have to press down when you're working around the edge. I don't know if this was an issue for Selena, but it was an issue for me, because this ridge it's very high up, and so sometimes the glue would take off when you meet at the edge, and it's just something you have to work with and experiment. Once you try this technique, you'll see what I'm saying. It might not make sense right now. I'm going to go about 2 more times around her head, and as you get closer, it becomes a little more difficult. Sometimes the hair wants to get in out of the way, and you want to not glue the hair, obviously. So I'm going to go 2 more times around, and then I will put the closure piece, and she'll be done. So you will get this piece called closure piece, and I don't know if you could tell, it's like the center of the head. It has a little bit of netting where it's been sewn into the netting, so you can cut off the excess, and this part of the netting, it's a center, you're going to glue on to the missing piece of the doll. So I've glued on the closure piece. I don't know if you can tell, but that's the center of the head, I put a generous amount of glue, and I'm just going to hold on to it for a few seconds and let it set in, and then I will check the perimeter around the closure piece to make sure that none of the netting and the seam is showing. That way you can't really see where you began putting the hair, and as Selena said, you can separate the hair in any direction and you will not see any of the netting. You will see only the hair.